What's up, everyone? It's your girl Shay here. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. And I've decided to talk more about digital manga, and this is mostly just based off of, I think recently I saw a tweet on Twitter where someone was basically talking about, why they didn't understand why US companies take so long to produce volumes of manga and why there are usually months behind the Japan releases. And some people went on to explain it's because, if they did come out around the same time, then they would catch up with it very, very easily and things like that. And the only thing it made me think about was why is it that, print manga, now I'm not gonna say still exists, but more so it's so prevalent still in today's world and in today's society compared to when it comes to anime and when it comes to physical releases. Now, what I basically mean by that is because many of us know that many of us now stream most of our anime. Very few of us go out and actually buy physical copies of a show unless it is a show that we really enjoy, really love, and we want to be able to have a physical copy of it, or for someone who is the collector type and enjoys collecting anime. I myself used to buy a lot of my anime DVDs, or used to buy a lot of anime DVDs just in general. But then once streaming services and anime streaming became a lot better, I basically at this point have stopped. I pretty much at this point only have bought an actual anime DVD if it's of a show that I really enjoy. For example, Sailor Moon, when they started releasing those on DVD, I wanted to buy them. But even that to an extent has pretty much stopped, and I pretty much mostly just do digital releases or streaming, mostly due to space and so on and so forth. Many of you guys know, the reason why many of us don't buy a lot of physical copies anymore. But I feel like it's not just because the anime service has changed, but also just in general, society changed and we switched from the model of buying physical releases of DVDs, physical releases of music, to moving to more of a streaming model where we all stream, whether it's on Apple Music, on Spotify, or if we stream it on, SoundCloud, or in, music or movies taste, you have Hulu, you have Netflix, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to manga, I've noticed that manga doesn't really have as big of a prevalent when it comes to digital releases. Yes, there are some manga that have only released digitally. More so I'm talking about Peach Girl Next, which is the sequel to Peach Girl. That one does not have a physical release, but it does have digital release. But more people now than ever, or more people now than I can think of, mostly just buy physical copies of manga. Very few people I know digitally read manga, or that is their main form when it comes to purchasing manga. More people still, physically buy copies in bookstores and so on and so forth. So I'm curious on if ever there will ever be a digital or subscription service model when it comes to manga. At this point, I can only think of 2, maybe 3 services that actually have a subscription service model when it comes to manga, and none of them are, all of them have their flaws pretty much. I know there's Crunchyroll manga, which for me, the main reason why I never used it was basically because it didn't offer a whole lot of titles. Viz Media also has a subscription service model when it comes to their manga as well, but it is still limited. There are still some series that are not available for just a part of the subscription. You still have to pay a separate cost because you have to buy per volume. And then of course there's Comixology, which is through Amazon, and that does also have a subscription model, but there are still some series where they're available with a subscription up to a certain point, and then after that you do have to purchase the volumes digitally for you to be able to continue reading them. It's very few manga that have all of the volumes up there for the subscription, where you don't have to purchase the volumes themselves separately apart from the subscription. And I feel like the main reason why, to me, manga is still kind of behind in that sense, because many of us know that a lot of books come out digitally and a lot of us can buy books digitally and stuff like that, but manga still seems a little bit far behind. And I feel like that's just because society itself has not completely switched to a digital model when it comes to reading in general. Now, if any of you guys remember, there was a period of time where there was all these news outlets talking about bookstores were going under, the mom and pop shops, the bigger ones, like for example, Borders went out of business, and I was a huge Borders fan. I loved going there as well. That's where I used to buy a majority of my manga, was at Borders. But then Borders went out of business. Then all you really had as far as like a big chain of bookstores was Barnes and Noble, pretty much. But even those were kind of far and few between because so many people were digitally buying books. This was mostly just because of the birth of the Kindle or the birth of several different e-readers and so on and so forth. But then strangely enough, that market took a total 180, and instead of it declining, it started to increase. A lot of people were going into Barnes and Nobles and physical bookstores and buying physical books as opposed to buying e-readers, as opposed to buying books digitally. Now, I myself have already said that I mostly read a lot of my books digitally, mostly due to space on my bookshelves, but I will say, it is aesthetically pleasing when you have a bookshelf full of books and you can arrange them in several different ways that you just don't get when you digitally buy a book. And for some people, physically having a book in your hand feels a lot more immersive than reading a book on a tablet or on your phone. And I can definitely speak from experience that for me, reading a manga on my tablet, I sometimes easily get distracted and start going onto other websites or other apps just because I'm already on my tablet. Or I get distracted by a notification, whereas whenever I have a book in my hand, I feel like I'm less distracted because I'm not on a digital device. And in today's day and age where a lot of people are wanting to disconnect from a lot of digital devices, whether it's a computer or a tablet or a phone, reading on the phone then sounds redundant because you're still using it on a digital device. So I honestly have to say that honestly, I wish that there was a subscription service model that was a lot better when it came to manga. Only because of the fact that I feel like that would be a great way for, if you're a fan of manga, to be able to read the latest chapter. And I mean, this is honestly no different from the current series that are still like being released. Like, for example, when like a new chapter of Dragon Ball Super would come out, or a new chapter of My Hero Academia comes out. That's usually, the chapter that's just released in Japan. We're pretty much caught up at that point digitally. But if you're waiting for a physical release of the volume, you are very, very behind because they're also behind as well. Or it takes them, I believe in Japan, takes them 3 months to release a volume, which is why it also takes so long for them to release it here as well. I feel like when it comes to digital manga, or manga going to be available digitally the same way that how anime is available, it's gonna be a lot more difficult and it's not gonna happen fast. And honestly, I don't see it ever happening, and this is mostly just due to licensing and things of that matter. Because if you think about it, when a manga gets licensed, it's already been coming out in Japan, but when it comes out here and it finally gets licensed, we're already behind. It's not the same as with an anime, where a lot of times an anime gets licensed and casted in Japan, and then at the same time over here we also get that same licensing, and that's why we're able to get something like simulcasting, where a show airs in Japan and then like hours later it's available here with subtitles. With manga, that just doesn't happen. The only way that does happen is through scanlations, because people are able to translate what has already came out in Japan and put them online. Now, granted, that is not legal. That is piracy. You're not supposed to do that. But I can see it being very difficult for an American company or for US companies to be able to do something like simulcasting, but for manga. But I could see it working like further down the road, and that's only because of series like My Hero Academia or Dragon Ball Super, where those chapters were available pretty quickly, after they had came out in Japan. But I don't know, there's just a really tricky situation when it comes to manga. Like I said, would love more digital releases. I'm a huge proponent for it just because of space in general. And just also because of the fact of, like a lot of people say, it can take so long for a volume to come out here as opposed to a volume, as opposed to a chapter you know, releasing. And I know some people will say, well, will digital manga like take place, or will digital manga more so like still come out earlier? No, especially volume wise. I mean, many of us know, I mean, when Living Room Matsunaga-san, yeah, the volume becomes available digitally, but physically the copy is usually not out just yet. And yes, it is a little bit cheaper, but it's not that much cheaper. It's maybe like a couple bucks cheaper compared to you buying a physical copy. I believe that's the case. I could be wrong about that. But what do you guys think? Are you guys more huge proponents for digital manga or physical manga? Do you understand what I'm saying as far as like why I feel like digital subscription services for manga would be a lot trickier compared to an anime digital service? So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I feel like this video is kind of all over the place. I apologize for this. I just thought it would be a fun topic for me to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Comment below. I have links to all my social media accounts below, my Instagram, my Twitter, and of course also my TikTok. So feel free to follow me and subscribe to me on there if you like. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys soon with a brand new video. Like I always tell you guys, stay positive, stay nerdy, and stay zen age, stay healthy, and of course, please stay safe. All right, you guys.